Or is it getting crazier out there?
Hey everybody, welcome to
Psych, it's really a talkie.
Yeah, I was going to start out by being silent. I'm like, let's not talk at all. Let's trick them. And although we would need some orchestra music in the back, you know, a little bit playing.
It was off the cuff.
Yeah. But hey everybody, welcome to Late Horror Show. Not sure how big of a crowd we'll get tonight, you know, talking about this, but hey.
Listen, just because the movie's 97 years old does not mean it's bad.
90. Oh no, Jesus Christ!
I'm going to tell you
not.
What.
It's a
if
good
you all
film.
don't like this is my fault. Dino's accommodating me because I am such a huge fan of this man. And, okay, he doesn't have any horror movies. But he does have one called The Haunted House. But it's
There you go.
But this is...
It's not all about horror anymore. We've got old-time radio shows. We've got detectives. We got your mystery. We got everything on this channel. Right. So that's irrelevant.
I mean,
it's
if there's
just
people that you got on here that are listening to old-time radio shows, this is just a hop, skip, and a jump away. I mean,
RTN, who's on here all the time, his avatar, his profile is Buster Keaton.
Fantastic.
With that little hat, the straw hat that they did in the
pork pie
when he was when he was a little bit older. So, but hello, Teresa, Tracy, JLR, Jughead Grayson. Edward Stewart is here. Wreck the place.
Wreck the place.
Kathy, Connie Clary, and JLR. JLR is here. But I think this is going to make for a great conversation anyways. I mean, there's lots to talk about.
It's one that you had never seen it.
Yeah, and...
Shame.
I know. Hey, listen. Whatever. Anyways, believe it or not, this is my first time watching The General, and shame on me, because I am a silent era fan. I think I need to catch up on a lot of... Most of my silent era movies have been the horror ones, like Cabinet Dr. Caligari and stuff like that, Nosferatu. But I've seen some silent, of course, the comedies of the early time. And you know what? This movie, and this is The General, 1926, and I would like to start it off with talking a little bit... There was one little fact that I found, then we'll get into talking about the movie. I learned today that the producer of The Dukes of Hazzard, his daughter was a big fan of Buster Keaton.
Okay.
And The General, so this movie in general, you got The General and Annabelle Lee, and they named the car The General Lee.
Is this for real?
From... this being, Buster Keaton's movie.
Is this one of your little things, or is this for real?
It's one of my little things.
Okay. I'm like, I didn't find that anywhere.
I'm giving Ted some new facts.
I'm just like, where's that website at? I want to see that.
No, that did not happen.
Oh, no.
But the female lead is Annabelle Lee.
Once in a while, he can pull one over on me. Really?
I love doing it. Ted Workman is here. Hey, Liam. What you doing, buddy?
Oh, hey, buddy.
Miss you, bud.
Don't stay up too late.
Yeah.
He's got his big test tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Those state tests.
Oh, jeez. But anyways, it's The General, 1926. The General refers to, and Ted will be doing most of the talking, so let me get in what I want to say.
Let me take a drink.
We'll both be going back and forth, but it's The General. This is all about the train... The General, and it's basically a train chase through the entire movie. It's called a comedy, but I would call it an action
adventure movie,
romance, adventure, war, and comedy thrown in there bits and pieces.
And that's probably why it was not successful really at all when it came out in 1926.
Yeah,
it premiered in all places, Tokyo, Japan.
Really?
That was where the premiere was.
Hey, Tiffany Lynn.
And then the next month it premiered in New York and only played in the theater for 2 weeks in New York.
Really?
It did make back more than its budget, but it was not a monster hit. This movie was close to $1 million, $750,000.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Very expensive movie at the time.
Lots of money put into the film, especially... the train scene with the biggest gag in the movie or whatever. That people call it a gag. It's the
most expensive shot in all of silent film history.
Yes, the train going over the bridge.
And the bridge
blowing up
down.
and falling
And it was
out.
all real bridge, real train,
Yeah.
real river.
And we'll get to it, and we'll talk about it when we get to that point.
But but prior to that, he'd mostly been known for comedies,
Yeah.
slapstick, daring do, amazing kind of feats of stunt work and acrobatics. And all his stuff is available online. You can watch some of it of varying quality, including this film that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I recommend you just hit play and watch it while we're talking about it, but really devote the time to watch it because all his films are phenomenal. Even my boy who's in the chat here, Liam, he's watched some with me.
Yep.
He was amazing. He had an amazing life. He was an artist, one of the first true artists of cinema. And
wrote, directed, and acted,
planned out the stunts
in his stuff.
Saw himself sink into obscurity, and fortunately lived long enough to see himself rediscovered, reappreciated, and actually kind of died pretty happy.
Yeah.
You know, that people really loved his films. And there's even a little James Mason story somewhere in all this that we'll talk about. So, because I love James Mason too.
Yeah, Salem's Lot, James Mason.
James, I wish I could do an impersonation.
James
I could do an impersonation of lots of people, but I can't do a James
Not
Mason.
a James Mason. No.
I can't, but
You would think. I'm just saying. There's RTN. See, look at him. He's
All
got
right.
his avatar there of good old Buster.
nice.
But hey, RTN,
One
talking
of the
to
most
General.
beautiful faces ever.
Evidently won, even though we've got an old-time radio audience. Not big on the silent films, huh? 24 people watching.
Well,
Where are you guys all at?
You know,
on the
sometimes
channel?
it's availability. You're not going to find these on Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, if you have Amazon Prime, you'll find a lot of Buster Keaton movies on there. But I mean, not sponsored, but should be. There's a app you could put on your phone or your smart TV called Canopy. Canopy with a K, and all you need to sign up to it is a library card. And they actually have, and if you have a library card, you should do lots of great movies.
Yeah.
All these old silent movies, Chaplin's, some Harold Lloyd, Keystone Cops, but there's also horror films, foreign films. You can watch Creep Show on there. I mean, it's just, and the cool thing is, like, every week they add some, and they rarely take anything away. Like, once they got it, they got it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've seen anything really on my list go away.
Is this film? I'm trying to find out. CM says here, and I knew somebody would probably bring it up. I don't think it's a big deal in this movie, and there's for a couple reasons. But CM says Buster took a real risk because the general is about a Confederate soldier, not a Union soldier.
Well, that would be a risk today.
Today, not back
then, no one gave a damn.
I mean, he actually went out of his way to make sure that there were no African American people in the movie. There's none whatsoever.
It doesn't deal with that issue at all.
At all. Not at all.
And as a matter of fact...
Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
African American?
What do you want to say?
I don't know. I don't know.
What are we supposed to say? I don't know.
Anyways.
Yeah. What do they like to be called this week?
No. I mean, I want to be sure, but I mean, none of them are in the film. They really don't. The focus is not on that
it's
at
not
all.
Even
except,
the war is not even really the focus of the film.
It is adapted from a novel too.
Well, it's actually based on something that actually happened.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't a military man, but it was a northern operation to steal the train.
Yeah.
And to burn all the bridges along the way to cut off the South supplies.
Hey, MTB.
And the way that it worked out is the North was able to do that.
Yeah.
But Keaton kind of turned it around and, made the hero of the story the Confederate. And I'm not really sure why.
Yeah.
I had heard it said that he didn't think people would buy a Southern man being the enemy, because of Southern hospitality and all this.
And again, it's because the era that this film was made in.
But really,
if you think back even of Gone with the Wind and stuff, a lot of the early films had to do with the South and not the North for some reason. So
I think there's just a whole, even though they lost the Civil War.
Yeah.
And, you know, the reasons why it was fought.
I mean,
there was
thank
still
God,
just, there's
but,
even say something like Django Unchained or whatever. There's just a mythology, some kind of weird fantasy about the Old South and the
Right.
hospitality and how things were. And,
Yeah.
even though it was a small majority of people that actually lived that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
But not really. I mean, this only takes place in the first year of the war. And to be perfectly honest, if you know history, the South was winning the war the first couple, 2-3 years. They were actually winning. Things eventually did turn around. So
Teresa says Buster would go back to his dressing room and find a naked woman over and over.
yeah.
And RTN says at the Late Late Show, I showed Sherlock Jr. to a bunch of teens who didn't even like black and white films, let alone silent. They went bananas, and I had to keep rewinding and reshowing scenes over and over.
Sherlock Jr. has some amazing shots. I mean, like the character by the fence and just the whole movie within a movie kind of thing.
And if you
That's what I'm saying. Buster Keaton's a great gateway to these types of films because he was inventive.
It's a good first silent film to watch.
He had the biggest balls.
Yeah,
I mean,
he could have died in any one of these stunts.
When you know about some of the stunts that he did, just courage.
Courage all the way. Hey, Robin. Hey, Schultze.
And you realize how many people of today's age were influenced by him. You'll find people like Johnny Knoxville, Jackie Chan. I mean, I read Jackie Chan's autobiography. Very much influenced by him. And you can find interviews of Johnny Knoxville saying how much Mel Brooks, he did the silent movie, and I think he even riffed a Keaton routine in that.
Yeah.
So many people are influenced by Keaton that you may not realize.
Yeah, Buster Keaton, the stone-faced actor who really,
all the expressions in the eyes.
Yeah, in the eyes,
in
the movements, in the stunts that he did in a lot of his films. Everything can be, come across in a certain way with what. I mean, it was amazing seeing all the stunts in this movie that he actually did.
And maybe nothing is as big as some of the other things he's done, but there were some very, very dangerous stunts because you're working with real trains.
Oh, yeah.
And trains going this way and that way and colliding. And
a moving train, and he's on it, and he's doing all this stuff on the train while it's moving, and it's just without any backup, no harnesses tying you down or nothing.
No such thing. Once in a while he would have a harness, like once in a while there'd be a rope or something, but not often.
Huh?
Not often.
Hey Zardoz, what's going on? My son 32 loves silence. Yeah, there's not enough of. Well,
see, when we were kids, they used to show them sometimes.
They did.
I remember our here local in Cleveland, Superhost would show. He'd call them Laurel and Hardy laugh tunes, and it would be like a little snippet of one of the silent ones.
Yeah.
And I at least had the opportunity to see some of those, but then when videotape and say like. I don't want to say Turner Classic Movie, but like when AMC was actually movies, they would show some things.
When movie channels on cable were actually movie channels on cable.
Right. Or once in a while you'd catch a Chaplin movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, it's so awesome that you can own all of these. I own, all the Chaplins I want, all the Keatons I want, I don't have all the Harold Lloyds I want, but I at least have DVD copies of most of them, and having really nice copies of some of this, and there's still other people I want to check out.
Yeah. Well, after this film too, he really, kind of declined, like we talked about. But anyways, let's get to this film.
Yeah.
This film stars Buster Keaton as Johnny Gray, who is in love basically with two things: the general, the train that he engineers, and Annabelle Lee, who he's fallen in love with.
That's
and
most of these films were co-directed by Buster Keaton and Clyde Bruckman.
Yes.
Clyde Bruckman worked with he worked with Three Stooges, he worked with Harold Lloyd, ended up killing himself in a restaurant bathroom with Buster Keaton's gun in the 1950s. Because, work just dried up for, his type of gag writer. And but you'll see that name. I think there's even an X-Files episode, Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is. There's a.
You won't get the little facts anywhere else but here.
That's right.
When
They're
it comes to these
all up
movies.
here. And I mean, what boy doesn't just love trains? Didn't this movie just make you like?
Thank you, Tracy.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be great to just take a trip on a train?
Oh,
You know, an old school train. I mean,
Yeah.
as uncomfortable as it probably is.
Oh, I love it, man.
But I could totally see myself. If I didn't have 3 kids eating on my ass all the time. No offense, Liam, if you're still there. I'd love to have like a big table like this, and just big train set, and just build it, make little towns and things.
Make a little. Oh, you know
exactly.
what? It's a very time consuming thing. My stepdad used to be into that train stuff, and make the train trees and everything look so realistic. It was
all I
really,
thought about
it was really cool.
watching this, like,
he would even put
amazing.
these little drops in the top of the train that would make steam as it would go by, and it was just so realistic and so cool. I would make it, and I would make a little cemetery where, like, zombies were, or
you could.
Jason's Crystal Lake would be,
Isn't that what
so many things you could do?
Romero's Land of the Dead was originally supposed to be? Wasn't it supposed to be like no, I think it was a tank, like Diamond Dead or whatever that thing was. All right, I thought maybe it was going to be a train or something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm watching the beginning of the movie. You're wrong. There is one black guy carrying a trunk on his back.
Okay.
So there you go. There's just one.
Okay.
And it looks like he's doing manual labor. I'm sorry for everybody.
No, I mean it is what it is.
But look at it this way: it was a movie, and the guy got a day's pay for work.
Hey, he also He also got a lot of like soldiers and he was a big Civil War buff too, and got a lot of. Am I wrong? He got a lot of props.
Well, they used the National Guard, got a lot of uniforms, and he was actually kind of smart. Like scenes where you see soldiers in the gray uniforms, marching, whatever, and then he would take all those uniforms off, put the blue ones on the same guys, and have them marching this way. It was always the same guys. It's not like he had a bunch of guys over here and a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I think it said 500. Like there were 5, and they would constantly change in and out of uniforms and stuff like that.
And they filmed this in Oregon. That's where they, were able to find enough train track, and there was a couple of trains they can use. He wanted to use the real general, which was in a museum.
Yeah.
I can't remember where. Maybe I can't remember.
Poughkeepsie.
Who knows? Could have been someplace like that. Someplace. But they denied him being able to, use that the actual train. But they found They found a couple trains, almost exact replicas of it. Just needed a few details. And they had all the track they could use and forests and everything. So Oregon is where this was filmed.
Yeah. Lazy City Worker, how are you doing? Nice to see you here.
I love that name.
Lazy City Worker, yeah. Edward Stewart, when I grew up, one guy had a huge train set up in his basement. Man, it was a great setup.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just boys. I don't know if, any of the ladies would be as interested in that. But, I don't know, there's just something about trains. Even when I see them going down I never get mad when I gotta wait.
No, right.
I'm just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm always pointing them out to my kids, like, hey, look at the train, man. You see the train?
And we got that the parks over here where we got the big train trestle where you can watch them all go by. Sometimes you get a mile of just graffiti on the side of every single one, but it's just, depending where they come from. But
a bygone time.
And, but yeah.
And that was something that Keaton was also very interested in. Anything mechanical, just loved. And he certainly, was a train aficionado too. So, this was right up his alley when they wanted to do this. But this movie is actually, like I said, based on a true story. It doesn't end up the way that it ends up in the film here.
Yeah.
So it kind of starts off with, we get introduced to Buster Keaton and his 2 loves.
Yeah, the General and Annabelle Lee.
Right, and he's getting off his train and he's going to go...
He was a big Poe fan.
Annabelle Lee.
Yeah.
I was wondering if anybody was going to make the Poe reference. It had to be you, though.
Well, hey.
And, they're in love. He's going to give her a little gift of a picture. Does he ask her to marry him? I don't think...
No, he doesn't ask to marry him.
No, he gives her a picture, not a ring.
Yeah, he's coming, off of the train, coming to the house. There's 2 little kids that are, following along in his footsteps, know. And they actually follow him in the house.
Yes, they do.
And sit themselves down, and he's getting ready to, like they would say back in the day, make love to her. But it was only googly eyes and giving
googly
a
eyes, maybe a
kiss.
peck on the cheek.
Yeah, you got to wait.
Things were less complicated.
Right. Well,
And
things
then he
for
feigns
mirror
like
effect.
all depressed. He's going to get up and go, and opens the door. The kids go out, and then he just closes the door.
Yeah, he tricks them.
I love
And sits down, and then there's a big to do at the door.
Annabelle Lee's brother and father
Yeah.
kind of enter the picture, and it's stated that Fort Sumter has been fired upon. So they're like, "Oh, the war is here.
Boy.
Let's go enlist."
Yes.
And I'm going to be one of the first ones to enlist, Dad. And Dad's like, "Well, I'm going to enlist too."
Right.
And then, well, Johnny, are you going to enlist? I want you to go off and fight in this horrible war too.
And he doesn't,
You don't seem too excited to do it.
No, but in Buster Keaton fashion, he really don't. Again, it's all about the stone face, and that reference, that moniker he's stuck with there.
Yes.
He doesn't really say much.
No.
He just gives that look and walks out the door as he's gonna go down, and I will.
He'll do it because she wants him to do it.
Yeah.
And not only does he get down there, but he makes sure he's the first one in line.
He does.
He hops over everything, and he gets to be the first one in line.
And those are the gags that make this comedic.
Right, and that's a little bit hard to express in our discussion here. I don't want to say, and then he hops over this and jumps on this table and does.
Yeah.
You got to watch it for yourself and see what a little monkey he was.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you were to take, silent film comedies are totally different than a talkie comedy. Because everything is expressed through movements, gags, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it is a bit different. And I think that's why, when you watch this movie, you may question, this is a comedy? Well, there's plenty of gags that are funny throughout the movie. It's a silent film, so you don't get the joke told to you to where you can laugh. It's all
And this
visual.
might be one of those movies that a lot of the people here, who that haven't seen. It's an important film. Like you take, I think it was 1989 when the National Film Registry started adding titles.
Right.
And the first, they added 10 at first, and that was like Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind, Snow White, Star Wars. Sunset Boulevard, and The General. Out of all silent films, the only silent film added was The General, not a Chaplin film, which would have equally been appropriate as well. Yeah. Something like Modern Times or City Lights or whatever. Right. No, they picked The General.
Hey, Stairpike, what's going on? I forget. He's told us his age. He's like 98. He's up there. How old are you?
Oh, so you saw this in theaters?
He may have seen it in the theaters. No. Tomo, thank you very much. But Stairpike says, Zardes, that is how I spent my teens in the 40s. My folks died, hopped cars following the harvest across South Canada and North the U.S. Stairpike.
Now, see, how much fun that would be, just...
Pullman Porters and George Pullman.
And there's a whole... mythology with that, riding the rails,
seeing the
even though I know he never did it, I always picture like someone like Johnny Cash, riding the rails with the little beat up guitar and picking on those songs,
find a little town and play a little song,
and making up those songs that we all loved. And I don't know, there's just something, someone needs to make a really good movie about trains again.
On the General, I found myself dry.
So what happens?
Yeah, I know.
Buster goes to enlist.
Yes, I like when he's turned down.
Right. He says, name Johnny Gray. Occupation, engineer.
And they don't tell him that he's turned down for any reason.
Right.
But it's an important reason.
It is.
He's more important.
The guy who's enlisting people talks to his boss, and he's like, no, he's more valuable as an engineer. Don't enlist him. We need people that can drive trains.
Yeah.
So instead of telling him the reason why, they just say, we can't use you. And he's thinking it's a physical reason. He sees another guy who's kind of tall, and he's pretty short. He's probably shorter than I am.
Yeah, he's a short.
And then he sees another short guy come by, and he's feeling his arms. He's like, what the hell?
I'm just as big as he is.
Right. So he hops back in line, and you're like, William Brown. What's your occupation? Bartender. And then they notice it's the same guy, and they throw his ass out.
And if they would have told him the reason behind it, then there would be no movie.
Exactly.
So you have
because
to keep
then the
that
other
out
guys, he sees the Annabelle Lee's father and brother in line, and they don't know that he didn't even get in line. They didn't know that he just got rejected.
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, come on, cut in front of us." He says, "No," and
they
they tell her
plot,
that he didn't even get in line, but You know, he tells her they didn't
So
want
he looks
me,
like the evil man.
or the coward.
The coward.
And she's like, I don't want to have anything to do
Not
with you
evil
until
man,
you're in uniform.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know,
how dare she? If you love me, why do you care if I'm in uniform?
You want me to go get a slug in the shoulder or something?
Yeah, people dying. No, but I mean, hey, that's the way it was back then, man.
It was a sense of
even
honor,
World War
I guess,
II. I mean, you know, die for your country and freedom and democracy and all that stuff.
I have to at least wager that since the vast overwhelming majority of Confederate troops, you know, didn't partake in this horrible act of slavery, I have to think that, you know, they didn't feel that strongly about it that they were willing to die for it.
Yeah.
You know, there was other feelings and things at play during that time. I know we always focus on that one issue, but they felt invaded.
Yeah.
You know, they felt invaded, and you know, so it was that sense of pride to, you know, enlist and join the army and fight for, you know, their homes.
Their homes, their cause.
But, you know, and then
Stairpike says here, he goes, talking about the train, you know, hopping the trains.
Yeah.
It was heavily romanticized. It was miserable, dangerous life, especially if you were young. And I can see that.
Exactly. I even said, you know, how we talked about, I know a long time ago, about how much fun it would be to ride a train, like, you know, across the country. I can imagine just how horrible and hot and stuffy and uncomfortable it would have been. And yes, it's just romanticized. That's the perfect word.
Yeah, and he says again, I just find it interesting because, you know, he has a lot to say about it because he lived it. The trained detectives were more likely to bash you senseless and throw you out of a moving train than turn you over to authorities. So they didn't care what. You get off of our train, beat them senseless, and throw them off the train.
How horrible.
So yeah, how horrible.
You're ruining everything.
You're ruining my romanticizing of jumping a train.
Here we go. Here's a voice of someone who experienced some of these things. And
we romanticize it, but yet...
Just like the South.
It was done for a reason.
This film's almost like a romanticized version of the South, just like in Gone with the Wind. But the reality of it was there were some really horrible things going on.
Oh yeah, and you know what? That's what's kind of cool about this film. Like, it takes place during that Civil War, 1967. I think technically it takes place.
1967.
Didn't I say 1867?
The beginning of the film takes place in 1861. And
Did I get that
then
wrong?
the bulk of the movie takes
You're
place.
right, 1861.
A year later, so 1862 is where most
Did
of the
I say
movie.
1960?
You said 1967. I was going to let you just keep going with that.
You know me, you guys. I mean, I'm all over the place sometimes, but it's what was I even getting at? Oh, the movie itself though, it was done, you know, made. The time was 1861. It was during the Civil War. But in a whole, the movie doesn't really concentrate so much on a lot of that other than the chase. And it was the chase of the train and the back and forth between the North and the South. But
really not till the very end do you have any kind of conflict between the two.
And they end up, well, where are we at next then?
It's a year later.
Yeah.
And Annabelle Lee is about to board the General.
Hey, Sam Barker.
Being driven by Johnny Gray, being engineered.
Yes.
And
still with that mopey face, seeing Annabelle. Can you imagine seeing Annabelle Lee for a whole year and she's just looking at you
won't
with
talk to you.
Mean face going because, how dare you.
Her brother is there. He's been wounded. And they've gotten news that her father's been wounded. And she's going to where he's at to determine how badly injured he is.
Yeah.
And she's fixing her brother's medals and things and giving that sideward glance to Buster.
Looking at him, rubbing it in.
Exactly. Rubbing a little salt in the wound.
Rubbing it in.
And so Buster's driving the train to a town, and what he doesn't know, what none of them know, is that there's a plan in place.
Yeah.
A northern plan to
evil, sinister
not
plan.
stow away on the train, but to be passed for a group of them, a group of 10, 11 guys, handpicked, for the secret mission to be on the train. And when they stop in whatever town for dinner, they have 20, 30 minutes for dinner.
Hey, great.
They are going to, uncouple the cars steal the train.
Yeah.
And then, while they're also cutting off,
Communication.
telegraph wires. Telegraph wires on the way. They're going to burn up every bridge along the route.
We need to take down telephone poles now.
That's what we
They're
should
all
be
over
doing.
the
Kicking them
country,
around.
man. And
Take down
this
a
is
few.
this is 2022, and we got
That's right. How ugly are those things anyway?
over century-old telephone poles, wood poles sticking out of the ground.
Right. Everybody's got cell
there?
phones. Let's get rid of these things. They're an eyesore.
I don't
anyway.
understand.
I'm sorry if you got gotta have a landline. Whatever.
I'm sorry to keep cutting in, but some of the chat is just very interesting. And they're talking about the hobos again.
Oh, let's do it, man.
Armac, hey there. There's a documentary from 1990 called Hobo, follow life of the railway and hopping trains. Yes, I think that was. I know which movie you're talking about. Edward says, my grandpa ran away from a orphanage at 12. When he came to the U.S., hopped on the train and got away to Detroit. Wow. What was the other one that I saw real quick? I thought I saw one. Stairpike again. They were often half crazed from hunger and rail hooch.
Rail hooch.
Which was usually sugar beets boiled and fermented in the sun for a day or two, then choked down, mixed with ditch water.
In prison, we'd call that pruno, but that sounds worse.
Wow. That sounds awful. Oh, my God. But, Ted, we've seen, we've entrenched ourselves with Little Rascals, Lauren Hardy.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Little Rascals, I just got my new Blu-ray today, Volume 5.
Oh,
have you guys been
nice.
collecting these? If you're fans,
The Little Rascals.
Classic Flicks. You're not going to find these in stores. Classic Flicks has got the rights to the original 80, and they've been restoring them. And I've been buying them each as they come out. There's going to be 6 volumes. This is the 5th.
Yeah.
And they are a revelation on the care that they've done. These look like brand new movies for the most part.
Nice.
So I can't wait. I got it from Amazon today, and
Little
if I get
Rascals.
home tonight, I'm going to watch me a couple before I go to bed.
Awesome.
I got to get up early for the kids for school, but
Yeah.
I am I'm just falling in love with all of them. The last volume had the kid from Borneo, like, yum, yum, eat him up.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that one? And my little one watched it, and he just loves that one. He loves when he's telling Steiny, yum, yum, eat him up. Eat him up.
The Little Rascals, fantastic. But anyways.
Yes. So what's going on in the movie here? So this is what happened in the film. Everybody gets out for dinner, and they're going to steal the train.
Yes.
But one little snag happens. Annabelle Lee is looking at her bag. She forgot something on the train. She goes back on the train.
Always forgetting something.
And she ends up being where she shouldn't be.
She's a hostage
wrong place
now.
at the wrong time, and they end up having to hold her hostage while they steal the train.
And Johnny Gray, Buster Keaton, does not know this. All he knows...
No, he doesn't know she's on there.
Yeah.
They just took the train.
They took the train, and I like how he gathers everybody. Hey, we got to go get the train. It's being stolen, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he's running after the train and running.
Everybody else is just like, he's not stopping.
They stop, yeah.
And he can actually run really fast. A lot of people that knew him said, if he wasn't in movies, he easily could have been a baseball player, some kind of athlete. That he was fast. He was great at baseball.
Yeah. Well, and one of the actors in here was an actual baseball star. Forget the name of the guy.
Yeah, me too. But I know I came across that.
Yeah, and he used them in this film, and thus going back to I think Buster Keaton was a big sports fan and did was very athletic. But anyways, he's running after the townspeople kind of say, "Screw this! I'm not chasing that train."
And so
go back to eat.
While the
My chicken's getting cold.
while the Northerners are heading down the track, they actually stop the train and they dismantle a portion of the track.
Yeah.
As well as cutting down the telegraph wires. And at first Buster gets a hand car, and he's just I can't imagine how hard that is. Maybe once you get going, it's
and he's going backwards, and
at first
he hops off, he pushes it forward, gets back on, and starts.
Maybe
pumping
it was on a little bit of a grade or something.
Yeah.
But he's pumping it to the next town, and where they dismantle the track. You see that, like,
Dismantle
it doesn't
it, yeah.
look like much, but the the handcar goes off, and he goes flat on his back on the wooden rail ties.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, the guy took a lot of chances where he'd hurt himself.
Have you read any biographies where...
I have his autobiography.
I mean, did it talk about anything about him getting, like, broken bones?
He broke everything.
Okay, so,
He broke everything. But,
he did that. Okay.
you know, we could take a little time here and just, you know, Buster Keaton was born in vaudeville. His parents had a vaudeville show. Mm-hmm. It was like the Keaton Houdini medicine show. They toured with Harry Houdini. Max, the myth is that Harry Houdini is the one that gave Buster Keaton his name. Buster Keaton as a toddler, they were at a hotel after a show, took a tumble down a full flight of steps, got up, everybody rushes over, he's like, whew, gets up, goes. And Houdini said, boy, that kid's a real buster. And back then, that's what buster meant. You know, you took a big fall, or you were like a bronco buster. Yeah. And those were the only two meanings the word really had. And his dad got the idea, like, hey, nobody's got that name. Let's call him Buster.
Buster, yeah.
And at such a young age, I mean, by 4 years old, he was fully integrated into the family show. Yeah. And
Stunts at 4 years old.
Well, he what they realized is he just had a knack for taking a fall. Yeah. He just intuitively knew how to do it, you know, not letting your elbows and head and heels hit the ground, letting your back take the force. He knew how to take a fall. Yeah. And he had really good timing for a little kid. I mean, and there were, you know, the thing was like, it was like a father-son thing, and he would always take the kid and like throw him into the orchestra pit. All right? And I mean, child services came after them a few times. Wow. But they, you know, Buster just loved it. He loved getting thrown in there. You know, I mean, yeah, he got some knocks and things once in a while, but he never saw it that way. Yeah. I mean, you know, as time grew on, he was basically the big draw. Yeah. You know, he was the one who was supporting the whole family. Even though his later on his brothers and things and sisters would join in the act as well. Mm-hmm. But just at a young age, he just had a knack for knowing how to do these things. So when you see him fall back on those rail ties and you think, oh, God, me, I'd be in bed for a week. You know, he's right up and going.
Put you in a hospital.
And, you know, what would later happen is he'd go to New York, he'd meet Fatty Arbuckle, and that's, you know, at a young age, like maybe 21 or something, that's how he got into movies. He did,
and from there,
maybe a dozen, maybe more films with Fatty Arbuckle. Those are all available on Blu-ray, nice quality copies. And some of those, first of all, Fatty Arbuckle could do some amazing. You see him roll a cigarette with one hand. Like, he would put the tobacco on and just go, and it's all ready to go. And he was pretty agile for such a big guy. Yeah. And then when he brought Buster in, there was just some magic. Yeah. And you should really watch some of those. Those are uproariously funny. Yeah. Some of those. And, you know, from there...
A team that could have stuck together and done movies, but they truly...
The guy that financed Fatty Arbuckle, Joe Skank. Mm-hmm. I know, what a name.
My name's Joe Skank.
Got Fatty his own kind of studio to make his own pictures.
And I don't put up with stank.
And he really liked Buster, and he basically became Buster's patron. You know, he had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. He's like, you just have to deliver X amount of movies. Yeah. You know, these were 2-reeler shorts at the time, a year. And, you know, you're going to be paid well for it. And, you know, you pretty much got a blank check. Work out how you want to do it. Yeah. Just give me these movies. And, you know, he started with 1 Week. That's the name of the movie, 1 Week, where he builds a house, like a do-it-yourself kind of house. Yeah. If you've never seen it, you got to see it. It's hilarious. Okay. Big hit, next one, big hit, big hit, big hit. All his 2-reelers made lots of money. Wow. So, and you know, the way they did things is they didn't do scripts. You know, they came up with an idea for a beginning, they came up with an idea for an end, and then they would have these gags and how can we work it into the story, and the story would just kind of fill out in the middle. They never did scripts.
That's awesome.
So
it's so...
That's sort of like a mini biography of Buster Keaton, at least as far as, you know, taking us up to where we're at. Yeah, no. This movie lost money, and he did a couple after this, but then Joe Skank ended up selling his contract, Buster's contract, to MGM. It was the worst decision Buster ever made, because after the cameraman...
It's what happens.
He pretty much... And the cameraman is really good, but it's not as good as the others before it. And, you know, it's definitely the end. And he lost his creative control after that. Everything went downhill for him, career-wise, after that, until he got rediscovered.
And he got rediscovered?
Probably in the late 40s.
The old films, you mean?
The old film, well, because he made tons of money. He bought a palatial, he had a palatial Italian-style mansion built, which later Cary Grant lived in, and then James Mason bought. Here's James Mason now. And in a hidden cupboard, James Mason found a bunch of Buster Keaton's copies of films that these were like the only copies of these films in existence.
Wow.
He turned them over.
Gotta love that, man.
He turned them over, and now, some Buster still had, some other collectors had, but because of James Mason's discovery, we are fortunate enough to have all of them. Some of them in varying degrees of quality, but we have them all. And
that's awesome.
Then there would be like...
It's like when you find stuff like that. It's just... Here, let me real quick. RTN says he broke his neck filming Sherlock Jr.
Yes, he did.
When the water from a water spout knocks him off the top of a train.
Didn't find out for years.
10 years later during a checkup. So he must have been in some pain.
He was just having a physical. Blood work, x-rays, just a workup. And the doctor asked him, when did you break your neck? He's like, I never broke my neck. He's like, yes, you did. And the only thing he could think of was that stunt because his neck really bothered him after that. And he only took like a couple days off of shooting because of that.
He had to have been in pain. Unless it was a slight break and he was... I don't know. I can't see
maybe
how
he just thought, stiff neck, but he powered through it. Yeah. So in the late 40s, they started having retrospectives again of some of his films. They were being, preserved because they were in different states of deterioration. Yeah. Over, like, in Paris, he was still huge. They would do screenings there, and he would go to Paris. He even made a movie over there. He even made a movie over there. He didn't speak, or I don't think I never saw it.
Well, he didn't need to speak if they'd done it silent, right?
It wasn't a silent movie, but it never even came out over here. It never got released over here. And after that, he got picked up for little bit parts in movies like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and a lot of commercial work. He also did shorts for, like, what was that Skid Row company, like Educational Pictures. Yeah. He did some for Columbia. He was never really happy with most of them. Right. He wasn't as involved with the writing, and, he'd come up with some gags maybe. Yeah. But it's just... a
lot of the actors never really transferred over to the talkies.
But he did, a lot of commercial work. There was, like, no shortage of, commercials, and, a lot of the commercials were pretty good. You can find some of them. There were some on DVD if you had any of the box sets of his films. I've got a couple. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of, and then he passed away in 1966 of lung cancer. Yeah. Didn't even know he had lung cancer. His wife kind of didn't tell him about it. Because he thought he was just
terrible
getting off of bronchitis. Well, because he didn't have long to live. It was too far gone. They couldn't do anything about it.
Not much you can... there was
it's just like we were playing cards the day before he died. Friends came to visit at the hospital, and, that was the end of Buster.
Sheesh. Oh, no.
But in the end, like I said...
But he lived a good life.
He saw himself slip, dipped into alcoholism real bad. A couple of failed marriages.
That's not good either.
But in the end, saw himself reappreciated. Yeah. And,
maybe past
to his surprise, realized that people do love those old movies that I did. So that's a happy ending.
Will go down in history, for what he did and his work.
Never be forgotten. Now.
Yeah,
Never be forgotten.
There's plenty of actors who, do you think 100 years from now Tom Cruise is going to be remembered?
Maybe just for being a wackadoo.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't think anybody terribly. Some of the, you'll remember Clint Eastwood or, someone like that. But, I don't know. There's just...
Especially
he was just more than just an actor,
actors.
He was a writer, a gag creator, a director. Even just his eye for direction and his attention to detail. Even in this film, it's very authentic looking.
I remember Thames Television in the 80s showing Buster's movies in the afternoons, and I used to love watching the Stunts. They would show Keystone Cop Shorts and Harold Lloyd. Armac, he's over in the UK.
Okay.
We kind of got Thames Television. Benny Hill rules.
Yep.
But
Thames Television did that great documentary, and I think you can watch it on YouTube. I think it's called Hard Act to Follow.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, everything. It's almost 3 hours. It's everything you'd want to know about Buster Keaton.
There you go. So, and thank you, Tracy. If you guys do like what you see in the channel, maybe not tonight's stream, I don't know, although we all love it who are here. So please join the Patreon. The link is there. Tracy just left it. You get movie nights there, Friday and Sunday. You get movie nights, and those are pretty fun. But you get that. You get extra content. So there's plenty to do there. There's also a link pinned to the top of the chat for PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee. Nobody's used that feature in a long time. If you want to just do a one-time thing to help out.
Yeah, what's the matter with you?
The links are up there for that.
We're thirsty.
I'm putting out a lot of content here, and and it's all, not rushed. I mean, it's all very enjoyable. Me and Ted doing some reviews again. I'm trying to get as much as I can out there towards the end of the month so that YouTube can see everything I'm doing and remonetize the channel hopefully. But hit the links.
That's a real kick in the balls.
Check it. I'm telling you. Check out the links in the description and all that good stuff. I think, regardless of the numbers, because I don't get YouTube, I don't get community stuff that goes on. I mean, like we've talked about before. I've seen channels with 100 live viewers, and the people are just sitting there talking, and they're silent.
They ain't got no pizzazz.
I think me and Ted go off really good here, and really, but for some reason, we got 80,000 subscribers. It's hard to get them to pull them in here on some of these movies, but I don't understand. But it's all good. It's all good. I'm doing this out of the love of the movies we do, and I get Ted's dilemma, where we were just getting stuck in these 80s cheesy movies, which were fun to talk about, but to watch the night before, some of them were a waste of time sometimes.
Or I'd like something and then he didn't like it, or he liked something and I didn't like it. And, it's so much better when we both really kind of dig the same thing.
Yeah. So, and it opens up the world to what we can. How you doing, sir?
Oh, hey.
We
gotta find another well of something that we can dig into.
Oh, and there's tons of stuff, and I think digging into some of these older things too, and we'll talk horror sometimes too. So we'll see. Maybe.
Well, I'm trying to turn some people onto something different.
Yeah,
just because these are old, these are brilliant.
Oh, please!
And if you are a proclaimed movie lover, not just horror, but
cinematic fan.
If you're a cinema fan,
yes.
You want to watch these movies, especially Buster Keaton. I'm not saying go watch every silent movie there is, but if you watch Chaplin, you watch Keaton, you watch Harold Lloyd, you're seeing the best.
Oh, heck yeah.
Some of the best movies.
Well, there's Charlie Chase, too. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of unknown people. Fatty Arbuckle.
There was, what was the other dude's name? I can't remember his name. My dad's a fan of his. I can't remember. He did that Zenobia with Oliver Hardy when Stan left. I can't remember his name. Someone will remember me.
I have to say, Monica Susan, welcome. I've never seen you here before, but she says, I've never been able to join a live stream before, so I'm pretty psyched. Well, thank you very much, Monica. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the bell notification, all that good stuff. We've got plenty of stuff going on the channel. That's for sure.
There's a lot of old stuff to go watch.
Profit Wing, what's going on? What was I going to say? I've never joined the channel before. I lost my train of thought.
It don't cost nothing, man. Just click the button.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Hey, Profit, what's going on? RTN Buster was buried with a rosary in the pocket and a deck of cards in the other, so he'd be ready for wherever he went.
The guy liked to play cards.
Yeah. little gambling taking place. So yeah, I can't believe it's almost an hour already. Let's talk about this movie. We can get through this movie.
I mean, there's a lot of sight gags that you kind of just have to watch for yourself.
Yeah.
So Buster's in pursuit.
Tim the Enchanter. Okay, Buster's
he's in pursuit.
Yeah.
And like I said, the rail car goes off, and he lands. He makes it to the next town, which I believe he goes on. What are those old bikes called where the front wheel is really huge?
Oh, it was it was a big wheel in the front and a smaller one. But it was a wooden bike, like somebody carved the entire bike out of
just
wood.
Like wiped out on it. I mean,
he's a
like I don't know how anybody did it. He gets to the next town. He starts telling everybody, hey, that train that just went by, they stole it. It's the northern the troops or whatever. They stole the train, and I don't think he's really interested in like getting a bunch of soldiers and stuff on there. Because he uncouples the car. He just wants the engine to go after his damn train. He wants his train back.
He does.
He does. It's like, I can't be dragging all this stuff behind me because they're going to beat me.
Yes. What's funny is
all the soldiers are hopping on.
He has one motive. It's to catch the general and get it back. And it doesn't turn out that way. Well, it does turn out that way, but in a roundabout way, it's also about rescuing Annabelle Lee.
It will be, yes.
And stopping the Union Army and helping, so it's just a lot of things that happen during, like he's oblivious to some of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like when he's on the train and it's moving past when like 500 soldiers, you see the Union soldiers on horseback, proceeding forward.
Not even paying attention.
He's not even paying attention. He don't even know what's going on.
Once his train back.
It's just fun stuff, man.
So as he's got this train and he's in pursuit, like little things happen, like the train. He sees off. Like I don't know what
Aristophanes.
I don't know what it's called. Like when there's the split track or whatever. But there's a cannon there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could use that. Pulls up, backs in, connects the cannon.
Yeah.
The train won't go. He's got to throw grit on the tracks to get it to go in the grit. He's still. This train starts going, and then he's not on it.
Oh, that happens a lot of times.
A couple times where he's got to hop on.
He's pushing it, and it starts going as he's still doing stuff. And
he had a little bit too, where like he could kind of sense when a train was stopping, and he would make it look like he actually stopped it. Like he would just grab it, and the same thing for when it started to go. He would do in other films.
Yeah.
So he's got this cannon. And what he wants, he's going to shoot a cannonball at this other train. Not at his engine, not at his precious engine.
He's trying to shoot it off over to the other train.
So the gag here is that he puts some gunpowder in there, puts the cannonball in.
Yeah.
And when he let's see, am I jumping ahead here? Hang on, I'm so sorry, guys.
No,
I just want to make sure that I'm not jumping ahead here. Because there's a really good stunt that I am so sorry.
With the cannon?
Well, actually with the cannon.
Okay.
What happens is when he does finally load the cannonball in, it shoots out and it lands in the engine car.
Yeah.
All right. That was for real. That was a real cannon shot, but they didn't know how much gunpowder to use. So, they would try some, it went too far. They try a little bit less, still went too far.
Yeah.
Eventually, they had to take tweezers and count the grains of gunpowder to use.
No way.
Just to get it to go that far. It took a bunch of takes just to get that to work.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Yeah.
But of course, that's...
But when it finally worked, it looked great.
Yeah.
And then, as he's, then he's going to load it again.
Could have hit him in the back of the head.
Exactly.
Man. Oh, my God.
That's the thing. And so, he loads it again.
And
he's going to shoot it. The stupid car ends up coming uncoupled.
Yeah.
His foot gets caught on it.
Uncoupling.
And as it's the cannon starts getting by the shaking of the car goes down and
lower,
it's aimed
lower,
right
lower,
at
And okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, fortuitously, he starts going around a curve. The cannon's there. The trainees, the general's over here, and perfectly just shoots and hits like the back end of the.
So then they think
passenger
that
cars.
the Confederate Army is chasing them. They're following along after us.
They don't realize it's just one guy.
Yeah, so let's get the heck out of here. And with that said, the chase goes on with them worried that that's who's chasing them,
Right.
a whole mess of people.
And
not just
another
Buster
thing
Keaton.
that the Northern troops have done is loosened up some, like they've, cut out the back of the train of the car, and they put like big train ties on the tracks, which would completely derail the train. Now, he does this amazing thing.
Yeah.
He gets down on, I think the front part of the train is called a cow catcher.
Yes.
And he gets down there. Now, yes, the
Slides
train is
down.
not going fast.
Right.
But this would still kill you if you made one misstep. And he runs off, he grabs
a beam
that they threw out there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really easy. The train's coming,
Yep.
and he's pulling, and he gets it. And he takes it and throws it at just the right place to make the other one that's blocking it flip off.
They both fly
Yep.
off to the side.
And if
you would
he-
have to hit it perfect.
And he did. If he hadn't,
Yeah.
the train could have derailed.
Exactly.
Even though it wasn't going super fast, it's still going at least 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. I don't know, maybe something like that.
Stairpike says, real quick, the large and small wheeler was called a penny farthing. The velocipede bone shaker was an earlier invention, the bike.
Okay,
So,
okay. I couldn't remember what those were called, and
I remember the name velocipede.
I don't think I've
and
ever
penny
heard that
farthing. Bone skaker was an earlier invention.
I think
Never
those
heard
are
of that
all
one though.
Well, penny farthing I've heard before, but I just didn't
Thank
know it
you,
was related to
Edward.
that. Thank you.
Says nice info, Ted. So I mean, I think the people who are here definitely appreciate the behind the scenes, the stuff that we're throwing out. That I'm
really trying to sell it. I'm really trying to hype it because it's
I've
an
watched a
amazing
lot
movie.
of reviews, and this is what a lot of me and Ted's movie reviews consist of. I mean, they're not 9 minutes long; they're an hour and a half,
No.
and we go in depth on a lot of these.
And I don't know if we're ever going to do a
backstory.
Buster Keaton movie. Depends on how much you guys like it. And if we don't, I just want to say everything I want to say about Buster Keaton all at once.
No. It's all fun,
Because
man. I enjoyed
I am
watching this
such
movie.
a huge fan. Like these are like my little Blu-rays that I would just love to hold.
Yeah.
Next to me like that. I love them so much. I don't sit there and watch them and go but I have a smile on my face the entire time I'm watching it.
Tim the Enchanter says there's a funny Buster Keaton short called "The Taming of the Snood."
Taming of the Snood.
Yeah.
That must be a talkie one. I will admit I'm not as familiar. I do lose interest after his silent films.
Huh. Okay.
Once I know that he's not in complete control of the film,
Yeah.
I do lose some interest. I have a lot of the other shorts. They came with Blu-rays and DVDs as bonus features.
Yeah.
I just haven't dipped into them. I have a lot of them.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm going to be disappointed, but I'll look for that one. If he recommends it.
Stairpike also does say, might as well. I mean, these are very important.
Sure.
In the chat too, Stairpike says a couple things. They were very difficult in mounting and dismounting. You needed to have long legs, of course.
Oh God!
The cow
ladder.
the cow catcher was a euphemism. Cow obliterator would be closer to the truth. So and Armax says always think of The Simpsons so you don't like the old time bikes, and kicks Homer in the face. I remember that scene too. Yeah. But anyways, getting back.
Buster's in pursuit.
Yeah.
He's not moving very fast, and he
all
doesn't have a
whilst
lot of fuel.
All whilst doing this, he's got to get wood and keep
Right.
throwing it in. And I didn't know they needed to do it that much. Like it had to be a nonstop thing, especially in these early trains.
I mean, some
Water,
were wood burning, some were coal burning.
Yeah.
And you had to keep that water, you had to keep that tank full to create the steam, the heat and the steam to get the engine going. So he's over there, he's chopping wood while the train's going. The damn axe breaks. He takes the handle, just throws it in.
Well, I like how the little axe thing after he's like,
he's trying to,
that ain't going to work.
That ain't working.
He throws that in there,
and...
It's funny. It
is.
That's interesting. Why you see the little water towers too along the train tracks every so often, like every few miles or whatever.
And that's also some of those scenes where you see we learn in the movie that the Southern Army's retreating, and the Northern Army's advancing, and you see all the Southern troops walking by, and like you were saying, he's kind of oblivious to it. And, you know, like at one point he'll see the northern troops walk by and go, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know.
Yeah, once he was aware, you know. Interesting to see what your take is on this. Armac says, I would start with 1 week and then move to the general and our hospitality.
All three are great. I think 1 week is a great one to start with. Probably better than the general. The general is, you know, it's very different than his other films as far as comedies go.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it didn't do so well. It didn't connect with audiences then.
Yeah.
Because I think they were just so used to what he did before.
Right.
But 1 week is so funny. It is. If you haven't seen it, it is so funny.
Okay.
I mean, just the props. You know, the skewed house, because you know what happens is through a course of events, the instructions for that building your own house get screwed up. And I mean, you know, you got doors.
That's where the
kitchen sinks on the outside.
That's where the side of the house falls, and he's standing there.
Well, actually, I think that does happen in this film, but it's not the iconic scene.
Okay,
that's from Steamboat Bill Jr., the one that everybody knows.
Got you. Kathy said, and I think she said
he did do it in an earlier film.
I think Kathy said this is her first time watching a silent, so knowing that this was coming up, she actually went and watched it. And she said, I laughed out loud when Annabelle threw away a piece of wood just because it had a hole in it. Too funny.
Yes. Or there's plenty of scenes in here where she's trying to help him, and she's handing him just like a little piece of wood, and then she's putting wood in the oven, and she hands him this little piece, and then he picks up like a little spoon, like, here, you forgot this one. And he's just like, oh, you're driving me crazy.
Too funny, man.
But you know, and then she grabs a broom and she's sweeping.
Monica Susan says they were meant to nudge the cows off the track. They'd be going at a slow approach. Okay, that's interesting. And Stirpike says, I remember the mailbags hanging from a hook beside the tracks when the train came along. A special arm would swing out. Yes,
I've seen that in films.
Stirpike is a treasure in the chat. He's the oldest chat person I've ever seen in any of the chats.
Just to be able to have seen those things.
And he loves
just to see all the things.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's
how much has changed.
Okay, and we're at the point too where he actually
he can't
gets
run. He can't. The train he doesn't have any way to make any fuel, and he chop any wood. He's used all he's got. He abandons the train, runs off into the woods. Immediately, it starts to storm.
Yeah,
and
finds a house. Finds a house, climbs inside, sees a bunch of food because he's hungry and starving and wet and cold.
And then all of a sudden sees some Union troops, officers.
Gets underneath the table.
And he listens.
Yes.
And this is where he finds out. I'm sorry, did I say Union?
Yes, you said Union.
Okay, Union. Yeah, Union officers.
Yeah.
And this is where he finds out what this plan is, why this train got stolen, what they're doing.
So now he's got info.
And one guy actually burns a hole in the tablecloth with his cigar. And when the guys who stole the train, they come in the house, they have Annabelle Lee. He sees that, oh my God, they've got her too. Yeah. And he makes plans to rescue her. He knocks out the couple of guards that are watching the house, gets her out the window. They spend the whole night in the rain. There's a bear. What bear is dumb enough to go walking around in the rain?
I know.
People are dumb enough to, but not bears. Bears are...
They're like, I'll hunker down here until it stops raining. But,
and, when they wake up, they have to,
I like how they slept in the same position, like sitting up the whole night.
They woke up in the same position.
And woke up in the same position, and his leg is like... But anyways.
So let me get my movie queued up to where we're going to be. I'm almost there.
Yeah, Stirpike's pretty cool, man. He's got a wealth of information.
Oh, even like when they get caught in a bear trap. Wouldn't that shatter your ankle?
Yeah, that was something that I'm like going...
I mean, that's always in movies.
Yeah,
but then I love him when he gets his foot caught in it. He gets his hands caught in it. Yeah. He gets his other foot caught in it.
Right.
That's just like Buster Keaton kind of stuff. It's like, how does he do that?
Yeah. No, it was very cool. There were plenty of spots that were in the movie that were just fantastic.
Right.
And this is where we get to the point of he sees that the whole Union Army is over there when daylight and the rain stops.
They're loading up supplies.
And his little idea is to get Annabelle Lee who he's rescued from the house.
Oh, and mind you, he stole a uniform from one of the guards he knocked out. So he's wearing a Union uniform.
So he's going to go get a big sack. And it's funny because he gets this big sack, carries it over there, and it dumps it out, and it's a bunch of boots and shoes.
It's all shoes.
Reminding you of the... Yeah, anyways. But it's funny. He starts to stuff her in the bag, and one of his shoes come off, and he starts going through all the boots.
Which one's my shoe?
Which one's mine?
Where's
I don't
my
know.
shoe?
And yeah, then ties her up in a big sack, throws her over, and puts her in a train.
Right. And then he goes and grabs a little board, like a
So
log
funny.
of wood.
Yeah.
Walks over to the engine. Nobody's really looking. Bonk, bonk. Kicks another guy off. I think there's a Union officer on the train in the engine car
Who stays there
the whole
out.
movie.
The whole movie.
The whole chase. He's
I'm
there.
like, when's he waking up,
I know.
man?
Oh, and they do a slick thing when he's about to put Annabelle Lee on there.
Yeah.
He's holding her this way, and they must have planned this at the time. She's uncoupling the car.
Yes,
You know,
she pulls it out. Yeah.
So, they're only going to have like a couple cars on there. And,
Yeah.
And he just hops right in and gets that train away.
Yep.
Manages to pull down the telegraph pole. Because you always gotta take care of the telegraph poles.
Exactly. It's so well. In this one, really, is this the one where when he knocks it down, it's connected to the hook, and it's going to give them a lot of trouble.
Right. So he has to get an axe and chop it off.
And I do love the one part where. Oh no, that was just knocking it down. Later in the film, he does that. But I like when she puts the rope across two pine trees, and he's like, "What? What are you doing?" But it actually does slow them down.
Yes.
So But what was I going to read here? Somebody said something. I want to make sure I read that. I love how effortless Buster made the stunts look. He would
That's the thing.
moving vehicle. Oh, profit wing.
Even when he jumps, when he's running from car to car, jumps onto the wood.
Oh, it's amazing.
It looks like nothing.
Yeah. But Prophet Wing says the bear was walking out in the rain just to let the porridge cool down.
Yeah.
Whoops, wrong tail. Okay, yeah. Hey. I like a good dumb joke, so. But yeah, they're going along. He's got Annabelle Lee and hijinks ensues.
Yep. I mean, they have to stop. They have to get more wood. There's a fence. He goes and just starts dismantling the fence.
Yeah.
They have to chop it up.
Yep. Yeah, he's throwing the big fence wooden poles over, and it's just not making it in the car.
And like you were saying, when she does tie it, what happens, the rope across the tracks, is when they hit it, it pulls a bunch of branches, and it just
gets caught in between whatever that is,
and I think he's got
whatever.
Let's see, there's two trains chasing him. I'm sorry,
whatever.
Trains chasing him, and so he hops in, because the train's kind of doing its own thing, going along, and he hops through, and he takes his axe, he's busting the passenger car.
Yeah.
That's the last one to get the the whole thing open, and he just starts hucking everything out all over the train, and it's kind of funny because
all the goods.
The pursuing train with the Union soldiers, everybody's got to get out. I mean, the train's going like. And everyone's move this book, move this barrel, move this box. Everything's in the damn way. Yeah. And then what we were saying about keeping the water tank full. Yeah. There's a little gag that they did on the actress here.
Right.
That when they're filling up the water, the pipe kind of hooks up to a spout, and you pull the nozzle, the water comes out, and you fill up the tank. Yeah. The spout was not connected properly, and they without her knowing about it, they let that big deluge of water blast her. So her reaction is real. Yeah. She did not know that was going to happen, and I'm pretty sure she was probably ticked off. It was a good gag.
Little pissed, yeah. I would be too, but yeah. Yes, so and then they just took off from there. So they had the steam, and things were getting. He was trying to make his way to the bridge, right?
Well, I mean, they have to get to their lines and report what this plan is.
Yeah.
And.
But it's funny how during this whole stretch here, to getting towards the end of the movie, where trains were backing up, bumping into each other, Annabelle was taking off, and he was going
anytime there's
down.
One of those junction switches, someone's always hopping up, hitting one, screwing it up. I don't even know what that thing is called. Like, it was like a ramp, and it just dead ends, and they made it so like the train goes up that, just like stops at the last second.
Right.
I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. There was just all this hijinks with full-size locomotives.
Yeah.
You know, and what'll eventually happen, you know, the chase happens, and then the chase is something you just got to watch for yourself. You know, I mean, I can skip through the movie and to, oh yeah, here's a little funny bit, but you got to just watch it for yourself. What will...
Armax says, do you think the Marx Brothers were playing homage or simply stealing from the general finale with their train chopping chase in Go West?
Well, I mean, you also have to know that Buster Keaton wrote gags for the Marx Brothers. Now, he's not credited, you know, in the film. If you watch the film, he's not credited, but he did work as a gag writer for him. He worked as a gag writer for Red Skelton.
So
matter of fact, they remade The General with Red Skelton.
Right.
I forgot what the movie's called. It's not an scene by scene remake. It's just a similar movie.
Similar, yeah.
And I mean, you know,
Civil War.
Keaton had Marx Brothers were a hard bunch to handle. You know, I mean, he would say,
you don't say.
He would say, you know, there'd be the director of the picture,
Yeah.
and there would be 3 assistant directors, one for each Marx Brother.
Right.
Because one would be on set, the other one would go off, get lost somewhere, go be doing something, they had to go find him. Groucho get lost, have to go somewhere, go find him.
Yeah.
They didn't like to rehearse it, you know, they ad-libbed. I mean, they were brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a synergy there
Right.
that, you know, other comedy teams didn't have. He worked with Abbott and Costello, wrote gags for them, especially when, like on their TV show, when they started running out of, you know, their live material that they kind of reincorporated into the show.
The Colgate show.
He came up with gags for them. So that's actually, you know, I mean, he made like $300 a week when he used to make $3,000 a week. You know, he went back to MGM and he was just a gag writer.
Yeah.
That's what he did. So you may very well see that
Cody
in
Ray.
a film like Go West because of Buster Keaton's influence.
Yeah.
Or, you know, sometimes they'd be doing a bit on a movie and not know how to work the gag out. They go, oh, go get Buster. Buster would come in there, and within seconds he'd
figure it all out.
Here's what you do. You do this. He don't get any credit for it. He didn't get paid for it. But his influence is on a lot of those comedies that came later on.
Right.
So, you know, when you notice that in a movie, that could very well be his influence. Yeah. But, you know, he just wasn't credited for it. So there's all these funny bits of Annabelle and Buster fussing on the train.
Yeah.
And
we'll be ending this. We're wrapping it up.
They're getting to. They have to fight. You know, they have to cut them off.
Yeah.
Before the Union Army reaches, you know, the southern lines.
Yes.
So that they can explain what's going on. What's going on. So they set up on a bridge.
Yes.
A bunch of wood. He
starts piling up a big old
kerosene
bonfire.
All over it.
Yeah,
and
that was interesting because he takes in the front of each train. He has kind of a big kerosene light where they would light it. You know, through. I mean, it's just so interesting historically. You know how times have changed and things.
Oh, right.
Have changed.
I didn't even know that's what it was. And
yeah,
there's a big container full of kerosene, and he dumps it all over. And Annabelle Lee lights it on fire when Buster's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Well, no, I think it was an accident.
It was accidental.
It fell off.
She accidentally lights it afire.
Yeah.
And it's like, how am I going to get back over there? So the train's going.
Yeah.
He has to just jump off the bridge.
Right.
Swims off. Manages to like get to the top of a mountain and slide down and get right back on the train.
Yeah,
and
it had to work out. It needed to.
They managed to get to. What is it? Chattanooga that they're going to? I think it's Chattanooga.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And that's where he reports, "Hey, you know, the Union Army's on their way. They're, you know."
This is where he becomes, you know, important.
He's the hero.
They're like, look at this guy. He's got all the inside.
And it's funny how he had to change uniforms a couple, like, you know, when he was driving the train, he's in the Union.
Yeah.
Then he sees a Confederate soldier and waves at him. The guy sees the Union thing and he just starts taking a shot at him. Right. He realizes, oh crap! Yeah, he has to put his.
I better change this very quick.
And
real quick, CM, thank you, Dino and Mods. Your hard work is always appreciated. Peace and positive vibes to all. Thank you very much, CM. And Quignol Fest filmed in Oregon, where
Yes.
we live. So yes.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, very
And
cool.
actually, where the scene that I'm going to talk about now happened, the whole town kind of shut down for the day. Everybody came to watch this bridge thing because this was the biggest shot ever in a silent movie.
Yes, it was a big deal.
It's not like Ben-Hur's chariot race or anything, but for a silent movie, it's pretty damn big.
Yep.
And, the union's coming and the train's coming, and he says, that train's not, that bridge isn't burned enough. You could cross it. Go on. We'll ford the river. And so the train, I think it's the Texas, is crossing the bridge.
Bad decision.
Bad decision. The whole bridge gives way.
Yeah.
The real train goes into the river. You see the steam flying.
Yeah, it was a very cool scene.
People who were there said just like the steam whistle was ear splitting.
Yeah.
And for a long time, that train just stayed there, and it was like a tourist attraction.
Wow.
They ended up, getting it out like to use for metal during World War II.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
To use for scrap metal, for whatever they needed it for. Because there was
Jeez.
always metal drives during World War II. And
I'm
it
getting
was
a
there
kick
that
out
whole
of,
time.
Kathy, I'm getting a kick out of seeing how excited Ted is as he talks about this movie. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, yeah,
I'm very passionate about Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
Especially,
Hey, we
and there's lots of his that I never saw. It's like the ones with Jimmy Durante and stuff.
Right.
It's just because he wasn't in control.
Hey, Holly.
I like Buster Keaton, the artist.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with Harold Lloyd. I like the glasses character.
Right.
He did some other characters, and he did some movies later on. I like the glasses character with Charlie Chaplin. I stop after The Great Dictator. Yeah, his films after that, they're Limelight is wonderful and stuff, which has Buster Keaton in it as well. If you haven't seen that, the only time those two were ever in a movie together. But I love the Tramp character.
Yeah.
And it would just be like if Laurel and Hardy played different characters. I
yeah.
like those characters.
No, I get you.
So I liked the films when Buster's incomplete. Like his very first feature film was called The Saphead. And he didn't, he has a little writing credit, I think, but he didn't direct it. It was more of like a melodrama with a little bit of comedy.
Yeah.
I skip it. I own it because it's in the set, but I don't watch it.
Yeah.
It's that stone-faced character that I love.
Gotcha.
And when he's not in control of the picture, it shows. So when it comes to the movies that he was in control, I'm very passionate about. The artist, Buster Keaton.
Yeah. No, definitely. So Johnny Gray has told everybody in the town, and the train goes down. All the Confederate soldiers are there, ready. And they start.
But the Confederate soldiers are ready for him.
Yes,
it's not a surprise attack like
so
it was planned.
So there's a battle and a surprise. They surprise the Union Army, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And I do like the scene where, because at this point, I believe he's a general. The guy that's in charge.
He hasn't been promoted yet.
No, not him, because he gets promoted to lieutenant at the
Oh
end
yes,
of the film.
I'm sorry.
But he goes up to who I'm thinking is the general of the army, or maybe.
He's definitely an officer.
He's a high-ranking officer, and he comes out, and Buster Keaton, Johnny Gray, is following him around, right by his side, like he's telling him what's going on, like this is this. And
he's
that.
probably a general, I think.
You know what I mean? And I like how.
Every time he pulls his sword, just the handle comes.
Yeah.
The sword flies out. He's just got the handle.
Yeah, and I like how he goes over to one cannon and. He's trying to talk to these guys like, and one by one they're all being picked off.
Picked off. There's a little sniper down there.
Yeah, there's a sniper down there, and he pulls out his sword and it goes flying and flies right into the back of that.
That's a little.
Yeah.
I was going to say a little gallows humor there, I guess. Unknowingly he killed the guy.
Right. Yeah. But very funny stuff, man.
It is.
And
then, he ends up being able to turn in that officer that was on his train, turns him in, he surrenders to the Confederacy.
And you think he's just going to go back to being a regular guy and stuff like that.
The general asks him, "Are you a soldier?" And he's like, "No, I'm just an engineer." And he's like, "Is that your uniform?" "No."
Take it off.
"I needed it. Take it off." And he's, "Give it to me."
He's taking it off all slowly.
And then they bring another uniform out and they make him a lieutenant. And this is right in front of, Annabelle Lee and her father. and they see him, promoted directly to lieutenant.
Yeah.
And I mean, because he was a hero, he pretty much single-handedly saved the Confederate Army.
Unknowingly, though, but anyways.
From a sneak attack.
Yeah, yeah.
And
very funny.
Just a really bad day. And, in the end, he and Annabelle Lee are sneaking off for their moment. The Confederate armies won that day.
Yeah.
And they're sitting on the... just the bar of the train that makes the wheels move. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, that's very iconic. Yeah, I don't know what it's called either, but once the wheels go, they're sitting on it as it's moving.
And he can't even get a good smooch because everybody keeps saluting him.
Almost like a carnival ride. Yeah.
He has to keep stopping. He finally switches places and he's just... Because he's got his right arm around. You're supposed to salute with your right.
Yeah.
And he finally just breaks protocol and starts going like this with his left.
Yeah.
So that he can, put the moves on his lady.
Yeah.
And
I cry at the beginning of The Lion King, especially the stage production. I wasn't the only one either. Stairpike says.
I saw a stage production of Lion King years ago. I thought it was really brilliant.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with crying to movies. If you don't cry to certain scenes in movies and stuff like that, you don't have emotion.
My wife will tell you, Toy Story 3, I cried 2 times.
First
time I saw it, I cried 2 times.
I believe it.
When the toys thought they were going to be burned.
Like I said,
and
if
they
you're
all
not
just
human,
join hands.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I can't. They know they're going to die. And they're joining hands. And at the end, when Andy gives them all to Bonnie, I cried 2 times.
Yep.
Like a damn baby.
Yep. Well, you know what?
I'm like, screw this movie.
Again.
And I've never even watched Toy Story 4.
You know what?
Because that just seems like such the best ending.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't take it no more.
Yeah, no, and you're right. You're right, because I did see 4. But The Wonder Years is a TV series that does that to me. I can't tell you how many episodes, just because of that feel, because it was kind of like me growing up during that time. I teared up at many times when Kevin Arnold first, his crush, his girlfriend, Winnie Cooper, kind of breaks up with him and comes walking into the garage. His dad is working on a lawnmower, and
what do you want?
Well, no, it was very nice. How's it going, Kevin? What's going on? Yeah. And he's just got his hands in his pocket, and he's like, and he could tell, how's things with Winnie, and we're kind of not together no more. And then they kind of had this moment where they hug, and it's just, they don't need to say nothing. And, you got a son, you kind of think, oh my God, and it just touched me a little bit. But
makes you wonder when that time's going to happen to you.
Right.
The first heartbreak.
Holly says, where is it? Boom, 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 boom. I love hearing these two talk about movies. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Now go and watch the movie.
Yeah, definitely
go
watch
The General. Why we love it so much.
And I appreciate that, because you know what? Over the span of 6 years that me and Ted have done these commentaries at first, movie reviews, whatever, the fun that we've had and the facts that, like, we did Freaks, one of the very first things we did on the channel, Todd Browning's Freaks, and
man, I worked hard on that.
Oh, so much information that you'd never hear in a movie review. I mean, we just do. This is almost like a talk show in a way. It's you put movie review because you got to let people know it's a vlog, it's a discussion, whatever. But every time we get together and talk about a movie, you can expect us to really dive deep, or sometimes just have fun.
Veer off.
And veer off. Well, that's what makes it interesting, I think. When we just, I was telling people about, some of the older stuff where, 3/4 of the way into a 2-hour show, me and you are cracking up so hard that, we can't even speak. I think one time for 20 minutes we couldn't catch our breath. So it was fun. But yes, Ted's recommendation here, The General, and if you've never seen a silent movie before, as attested by Kathy here, this is one, I think, good one to start with.
It's one that's considered the most important. It's one of the most important ones. It's not the most uproariously funny Buster Keaton film. I would definitely watch one week. It's a 2-reeler. It's short. It's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All of his shorts are actually really good. You can find them all. Like I said, that Canopy site has
Thanks,
everything.
Edward.
And but you know, just do a search. You know, there's Buster Keaton movies on YouTube. I think they're all there. I think they're
that's
public
actually
domain. And
that's actually where I watched The General.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And
okay.
Somebody was talking also about the soundtrack, like get the one with Alloy Orchestra.
Right.
Orchestra.
A
Because
lot of
that's
these. Please go.
Oh no, just because the silent film, a lot of people put their own musical soundtrack or behind these
and
films.
See, a lot of times.
And
I mean,
can
King
make or
Kong was
break
the
a
first movie to have
film
its own
sometime,
dedicated soundtrack. But before that, silent films, it was either, found music, like even in Dracula, I mean, it was like found music. Soundtracks weren't really, I mean, it was just like, hey, whatever the theater wants to play with it. It didn't really, that was an afterthought.
Yeah, just give emotion in certain scenes and stuff like that.
So you'll get I'll have the Blu-ray of The General, and there's like 3 different, maybe 4 different choices for what kind of music you want. There's this guy, Carl Davis, he's very famous for his, a lot of people like his. There's other ones. Even, there's even that version of the silent film Metropolis that has, the rock and roll soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's a version of Nosferatu that's got, a synthesizer goth
in a
score.
way, it's kind of cool that you can put those kind of different things out there. Like, to have
it's nice to have the option.
Soundtrack to something like that is kind of really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, Metropolis, it's got, Queen songs and, all kinds of stuff. So, and sometimes
people
it's interesting to
around.
see how that syncs up. And, but
JLR.
a lot of them didn't have original soundtracks. So that, anything kind of goes, I guess.
Yeah. JLR, love these reviews you and Ted do. I learned something today. Yeah, you usually learn something when we're
Learn to
talking
love
about a movie.
silent comedies.
And Tracy said Jeepers Creepers and Poltergeist reviews were excellent. Oh, I bet the Jeepers Creepers one, we probably were going off on a lot of different things.
Paul
But
Silva, the pervert.
I mean, I love Jeepers Creepers,
know.
But I
pirate that movie.
I haven't
Don't
looked
buy
back.
it.
Right? Yeah, that's probably
Just
what you
don't
said.
give that
during
guy
it,
any money.
Yeah. But I can imagine what we've said during that commentary. Yeah, because me and Ted tended to just, we've gone off and said,
It's a good movie.
We had fun. Whatever.
I
mean, one Sean Bond. Mac, it's a great movie. What movie? Freaks by Todd Browning. It's a great film, genuinely uncomfortable viewing, but
it's a one-of-a-kind movie. There's nothing like it.
I wasn't even uncomfortable by it, but I get what he's saying. There was an eerie feeling to it, but I embraced every character that was in that movie. Did not feel sorry or anything. I took it as cinema, and yes, and
that's actually kind of what it's about.
Yep. So
don't mess with us.
Go back and watch The Freaks under the moniker the. I think it was when we were at the Little Monsters Movie Podcast. We changed our name from the beginning. The beginning it was the Little Monsters Movie Podcast, but one Sean Bond. I just want to throw it out there again before we end the show. Please, everybody that is here and shows up here, send some good thoughts and vibes his way for his daughter. Mm-hmm. She's dealing with the cancer, and we always want to send healing energy towards. I mean, it just breaks my heart, But
2 minutes out of your day, guys.
Yeah, but please send some energy that way. Focus it. His way. Think of one Sean Bond's daughter. Send that energy there, and hopefully everything will be fine. But yeah, I mean, lots of hurt in this world and sadness, and try to get some light and peace and love and everything else there. Thank you, Tracy, again. Again, try joining the Patreon for all the extra stuff. I do appreciate it. And I guess we're going to get out of here. Hey, Cody Ray, Freaks was good. I think did you change your avatar that quick, Cody Ray? Edward Stewart goes, still have my VHS of Freaks. He has this VHS of everything. He's got everything. If I mention something, he's got it. Comics, magazines, posters, memorabilia. He sent me the Dark Shadows snow globe thing up there.
I didn't see no Dark
in the very
Shadows.
front.
I'm going to check that out.
I'll show you. It's right there. If I point to the... Anyways, it's 9:30, get ready tonight, you guys. I did put timestamps in again. We got some commercials in there. But there's the timestamps in the playlist is mystery shows, although I did throw in The Whistler, which is somewhat mystery thriller, and The Shadow. But there's tons of other stuff. There's Paul Temple, a nice 7-parter. So hopefully you guys enjoy that overnight in about half an hour for the Old Time Radio Show overnight. Tomorrow night is Thursday. I will be doing... oh my God, I'm trying to think of what trivia I threw up there. What trivia am I doing tomorrow night? It's going to be... Trivia. Oh, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh.
Movie trivia. I'm losing it, Ted. Creature from the Black Lagoon, movie trivia night, pre-show, before the big show, before the Old Time Radio Show, trivia show of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I think it's pretty long like that. But
yes, man. I heard the word show about 17 times.
It's the pre-show before the big show. It's a new thing I started, but it's usually pretty fun. But there you go, you guys. Thank you. Yeah, one Sean Bond says, love and peace. She needs it. Thank you all. Okay.